And we're here with Connor Ryan. Connor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing very well. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I had a great start to my day. So this is Monday. As I always say, we record this Mondays. I'm going to say that for the rest of the time, even though I say it every week. Um, but Sunday night, or Sunday, I went out when I'm home at my parents' house when I'm not at school. In the backyard, we have a nice little reservoir and we have a cove that's like just ours. It's perfect. And in the wintertime, sometimes it freezes and it's fun to skate on. And so I went out there Sunday and I walked out to the middle and it was good, but I was still kind of like, I don't know if this is ready to skate on.
Hmm.
And I was like, I think it needs a day more. And I was sitting on my laptop doing some work at like 12:30 that night, Sunday night or Monday morning technically. And I was like, why don't I just go out in the morning and skate? I bet it'd be really cool to see the sunrise and like just go out and play by myself. That's what I
Hmm.
did. I woke up at 6:45 for the first time in so long.
Ambitious.
Very ambitious. Jumped out of bed
Hmm.
and ran right out, and it was actually really nice. I definitely today I've been like on one today. I've just been completely like just on a different level. Um, and it's been good. It's like I haven't. It's just I haven't skated in a while, so that was fun too. And to
Hmm.
open your day like that, it was very
There you
fun.
go.
I highly recommend it to all the listeners.
Yeah, I was very concerned when you first tweeted out, I think on Sunday afternoon, like checking out the ice. I'm like, are we gonna have a Bruins beat tomorrow? Or is Evan gonna be like the host, or am I gonna be having to take over or something? Like I was worried you're gonna fall through, but good to see you here in one piece. Glad you started your day off with a good skate. So, happy to be talking Bruins again with you.
Oh yeah, I've knock on wood. I've never fallen through. That's been out there for a long
Good.
time. Typically, I feel like I have a good sense about the ice. Like
Hmm.
yesterday, I stepped out and there's this like tree that goes into the water that
Hmm.
I usually walk out on and then step onto the ice. And right under it, it wasn't frozen. And so yesterday, I figured, well, it probably isn't good enough to skate on. But I felt like I could walk on it, so I got
Yeah.
out and walked across. And the edges, of course, were like kind of watery. So but Monday, it's great in the mornings because it's so cold. Like
Right.
I was out there, it was like 18 degrees. It was perfect. It's very refreshing. Wakes
There
right
you
up.
go.
But speaking of big things, speaking of people returning to the ice on
Hmm.
Monday, David Pastrnak made it, or didn't return to the ice, but returned to the ice in a white jersey, which for those who don't know means you're good to go. You're not non-contact, which is those maroon and red jerseys. But Pastrnak out in a white jersey. Looks to be coming back before maybe we thought he was going to come back, which is huge because I know we were both saying during the offseason it could be a month. It doesn't seem like that's going to be the case.
Yeah, no, I mean the original projections I think had him for mid-February, and I mean just the fact that one he's even full participant during practices now is like a huge step forward for him, and he looks good. I mean, you have to expect, especially once he gets into a game setting, he's gonna have to shake a lot of rust off just in terms of getting back up to speed. He hasn't played in months now. He mentioned today, it's first time he was getting hit in months, and he has to adjust to that. So if he's cleared to play later this week, Cassidy said that probably won't play Tuesday today, or he won't play Thursday against the Penguins, but he could return on Saturday, which it's a good welcome back, right? Is playing Chara and Tom Wilson and those guys. So
Oh
it's a hell
yeah,
of a way to
welcome
jump right
back,
back into
Pasta.
it. Exactly. But no, he looks good. I mean, the hands look good. He dangled one pass. I think it was Halak during a drill today. The shot is as you expect, right? So I mean, you look at the Bruins, and if this was maybe 4 or 5 days ago, we'd be rejoicing that Pastrnak was back because it seemed like the Bruins offense was dead in the water pretty much. Now all of a sudden they're scoring 10 goals against the Flyers. Their power play is at I think 35% right now, which I believe is fifth in the NHL. Those are obviously skewed because we're only a couple games in. So like I think maybe like the Oilers have like a 50% power play rate or something like that. But regardless, the fact that you have Pastrnak coming back to this offense during a time it seems like everything's clicking up front for them, you can't understate just what he brings to this team.
Oh, he changes everything, and I think it's one of these guys that I mean, when you get David Pastrnak back, I mean that's a top 10 player in the NHL. That's a game changer in every sense of
Mm-hmm.
the word. You listeners don't need convincing on that. I don't think there's any controversy over that. But just what he adds to the scoring, as you said, power play scoring. He's the go-to shot on the right side. Just 5-on-5 scoring. You wrote a piece about that, how it's gotten a lot better and more proficient and doing different, scoring different types of goals. So getting him back is huge. And as you also said, the scoring got a lot better over the past week, which for this last episode that we did for Bruins Beat, we were like, oh my God, the scoring, what a terrible start. And now, of course, in the past week, they've done a 180 against
back to the cup.
Again, I know they're going back to the cup against, of all teams, the Flyers and Carter Hart, which was surprising. Carter Hart obviously just demolished his stick after the second game. What's funny is we're just one of we're one of few people there. And, for those who don't know, when you're at these games, it's silent. Like this play on the ice and that's it. So when the game's over, we're all kind of getting ready to go on the press conference Zooms and we might have our head down, the Bruins are celebrating. They have the Dirty Water playing. But I remember vividly just hearing like smashing and I'm thinking, who is smashing something? I look up and it's Carter Hart just, breaking his stick into many different pieces. But with Pastrnak, next comes the expectations. Obviously, we expect him to be lethal on the power play. We expect him to be a proficient goal scorer. Other than that, I mean, I know today or Monday he was playing with Krejci. He's probably coming back, though, on Bergeron's line because Cassidy's alluded to it all preseason and the start of the regular season, right?
Oh, yeah. Cassidy was asked about that today, and it was as much as Cassidy can be very chatty and give you a whole bunch of stuff, it was pretty much like, no, he's going to go back with Bergeron and Marchand. So I think that's set in stone. I think it was just maybe just giving DeBrusk more reps up there in the top line just for the time being because Pasta's probably not going to be back for a couple more games. So I imagine they're just, having him as a placeholder there. He kind of swapped in and out with Studnicka on that second line during practices today. So I don't think he has to worry much about, Cassidy doesn't have to worry about that line getting chemistry back once Pasta's back. So imagine he's just going to kind of skate wherever there's an opening right now. But it seems like, especially the way some of these other lines are playing right now, they don't really have to worry about doing, shuffling Pastrnak further down the lineup because, the returns with Richie and Studnicka have been pretty good so far. And then obviously that third line was a buzzsaw on Saturday against the Flyers. So
man, maybe Pastrnak won't make it back in the lineup. Maybe
we might have to start talking about it.
Where's he going? He's to be a Patrick Laine situation.
I know.
By the way, did you see the Blake Wheeler stuff?
Yeah.
Blake Wheeler, it was like treating him bad, and oh my God, former Bruin. I guess not a great locker room guy, even though he's an assistant captain. It's funny, and this is not a topic I wanted to discuss or like I had any plans to discuss. When you think about it, and everyone knows this, but the Bruins are really so lucky to have the leadership core they do. Because you look at what's happening in Winnipeg right now. I mean, I believe Blake Wheeler's an assistant captain. I thought Mark Scheifele.
I think he's the captain, right?
Oh, he is the captain, yes. Yeah. And then Mark Scheifele's an assistant. Those are two guys just basically excluding and, constantly, ruining their top goal scoring right winger because Wheeler didn't want him taking his spot. Like that is a guy who will probably never win. Now more stuff will come out about it.
Right.
But like Bruins fans be very enjoy these times while you have, a good locker room.
I mean, wasn't that also the case with Kane too? Evander Kane when he was there, didn't he say that he didn't really like the culture there? So I feel like there's been another player who I think had something to say about, not like lighting them on fire or anything, but was like very happy to be gone from Winnipeg, which granted, if you had to play
I was
Winnipeg,
going to say.
yeah, I think that kind of maybe helps adds to kind of the misery, I guess. So Pierre-Luc Dubois, enjoy Winnipeg after, half-assing your way to try to get to Montreal. So it's kind of fitting given how shitty he played down the stretch there.
I know. It's funny because you go to a place like Winnipeg, the place sucks, and then the culture sucks. You're like, damn, I'm just getting screwed on every front right now.
Yep.
But so back to Pastrnak. So obviously Pastrnak will rejoin the first line. He'll come back in. DeBrusk will probably go back down to the left side next to Krejci. Who's the odd man out? Because I think there's only one guy that you can really point to as probably the odd man out.
Yeah, I think it's we're going to say it together of Anders Bjork, right?
Anders Bjork, yes.
Yeah. I mean, you just kind of look at it, and it'll be interesting to see how they kind of sweat out that middle six, because you can make the argument that considering how Richie's looked playing next to Krejci, granted they probably want to see a few more games, but you could have a situation where, right, Coyle and Smith are buzzing right now. Do you put another kind of quicker skater with DeBrusk with him and see how that works? Because they tried that last year, putting DeBrusk with Coyle, and it looked like it had a few good games together. So that could be a situation where, I mean, you could have Richie, Krejci, Studnicka, or Kasha, depending on when he returns, which there's no timeline yet, and then DeBrusk, Coyle, and Smith. So that could be the case, and then you bump Frederick back down to the fourth line. Now, granted, Frederick looked great on the third line, so this is a good problem to have if you're the Bruins. I mean, we've talked about this even before the season started, that you look at the depth up front for this team, it's the best it's been in years, where you have a dilemma, not in terms of who you're slotting out per se, but you have a guy like Frederick who has looked good kind of wherever you put him in the lineup. So it will make for a couple of interesting decisions for Cassidy, but I think the biggest hurdle in terms of who goes out of the lineup, it seems pretty cut and dry that it's probably Bjork.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's tough because we've been waiting for Bjork to come out and be, the player that we all thought he could be, and the Bruins thought he could be, and it hasn't been that thus far. He's, it's hard to notice him. Whenever Cassidy shortens his bench, usually Bjork isn't getting time late in games. So that seems like a guy who I thought was a trade piece last year. Definitely a guy you'd leave open for the expansion. Honestly, would probably benefit from time in Seattle. Like, I think he's a guy, he is a very good example of someone who could absolutely use a change of scenery, especially in a place like with the Seattle Kraken. I don't have my sweatshirt on today for the Kraken, but I think Anders Bjork would fit well over there. It's funny, you mentioned the Trent Frederick thing, and I think it's really interesting because it's been a while where the Bruins have had a forward come up who's projected to be a third or fourth liner, who's a young prospect, and really succeeded the way that Frederick has. It's been a while. Think of all the guys that they've rotated through down there who just haven't panned out or haven't worked or haven't stuck. And Frederick was one of those guys. For a while, that was Frederick. He had like 19 or 20 games in the NHL a few years ago and was, aside from killing Brandon Tanev, was fairly irrelevant to the game.
Yeah.
Not the case anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean, you looked at what you were expecting from Frederick, and at this point, I think everyone knows what Frederick brings in terms of his size, his physicality, the fact that he can drop the gloves and probably win most fights. But I think the most encouraging thing is just everything else he's doing. I think Martian said after the game on Saturday, it's just that, he may not do kind of the big things in a game. He does everything asked of him correctly. So, I mean, the fact that I think he's leading the Bruins in terms of drawing penalties, he was tormenting Friedman in that game on Saturday, sent him into the box twice, once on unsportsmanlike conduct. Bruins scored twice on both of those penalties, gets Subban for the hold in the game against Jersey. And I mean, there's value in that, right? There's obviously value in dropping the gloves and making a statement in terms of, not messing around with your team. But would you rather that, or would you rather have the other team, implode, have him in the box and you're still out there and your power play gets to work and scores a goal? Like, I think you'd rather take that most of the time, right? You only have to drop the gloves when it's absolutely necessary. You don't, it's not like you're going to drop the gloves and he's going to fight Tom Wilson right out of the gate, so, so yeah, he's doing all those little things right. And you look at the rest of his game, just a natural development. As you said, he stood out in his first year here during that limited time, but mostly just because of, him willing to fight. Like, you wouldn't really see him like active on forechecking or, taking part in like extended ozone shifts. And now you're seeing that where he's protecting the puck. He's winning puck battles. He gets sent in as the F1. He's holding on to the puck and like extending that ozone time. His shot looks a lot better. I mean, it shouldn't be much of a, you look at kind of wherever he's been slotted in the lineup, good things have followed him, right? I mean, that third line looked great on Saturday. Even if the Corrali line hadn't scored yet, I mean, with Frederick on that grouping, they pretty much, were having barely any ozone stats, and they were still, like, the shot totals were still firmly in Boston's favor. So wherever you're putting Frederick right now, it's looking pretty good for the Bruins. And it's just, I think, part of one, just his natural development and being, stronger on the puck and working on his skills, but also I think just understanding his role more, that it's not just, beating the bag out of every guy. It's if you just drive the other team crazy, you've got what should be a top 5, top 3 power play. Once again, you can hurt a team that way a lot more.
I think it's funny with Krug obviously gone and with Grzelcyk gone the past game.
Hmm.
It's really opened it up to me that the power play really just revolves around Krejci, uh, Bergeron, and Marchand. Those are the three key players that you take them off the power play, then it's a really big issue. But like Grzelcyk in for Krug, I mean, the power play looks just as good.
Hmm.
Zaboral in for Grzelcyk. Now against that was also against a beaten Flyers team, but that looked fine too. I mean, we've both said at length, Zaboral's looked, he's been sheltered very much,
Hmm.
but in his time on the ice, in his ozone time, is skating through the neutral zone, moving the puck well, like he's been good. He's been fine.
He's doing everything that they're asking him to do, which is all you need
Yes,
him to do, and he's
and
run with it.
and so this is my point with guys like Frederick, Zaboral, Richie. Lozon has a bigger role than I think any of those guys do, so he's on a little bit of a different playing field. But for these secondary guys, and Nick Ritchie, by the way, is basically on the second line now. Could be for the future. Probably might go back to third. Who knows? These guys are just doing their job. They're not like they have these they don't have these crazy tasks. Zaboral, I remember at the beginning of the season Cassidy saying just get the puck in the forward's hands. He's done that. He hasn't really played a lot of D zone draws. We'll see how that whole shakes out as the season goes along. But so far, done his job. Nick Ritchie, be a net front presence on the power play, does that well. Create space for line mates, does that well. Fish pucks out of the corners and stuff, does that well. Finishes some chances. Frederick, his jobs. They're doing them. They're just doing them. And it's just kind of working out. And I think that to me is one of the biggest stories thus far is these secondary guys, these fringe guys who people were kind of on are just doing this sounds so cliche, but they're just doing their jobs.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you look at even Richie. It's like it's not like he's reinventing the wheel. It's not like he just came like out of this season and he just got like a new repertoire of offensive skills. You're like, who the hell is this guy? He's keeping it simple. I mean, he's operating down low. He's planting himself in front of the net. And on the power play, it's not like he's this virtuoso down there. He's either collecting rebounds or there's a few sequences didn't lead to goals, but he'd get a pass down low and he'd immediately send it off in like a tic-tac-toe kind of set to Bergeron at the bumper, which you have to imagine if they leave Bergeron open, that's probably going to lead to a couple of grade A chances for him. So, yeah, he's just doing everything that's asked of him. And what do you know, if you're on the power play on the net front, you've got, as you said, Marchand and Bergeron and Krejci up high. Yeah, the points are going to follow. And once you add Pastrnak to that mix, and you can have two or three guys on him, kind of him in the left circle. I mean, Richie's going to have a whole bunch of more space there at the net front. So, like, we're talking about, is Pasta going to hit 50 goals in, under 50 games? Might be Nick Ritchie, man. Might be Nick Ritchie that's going to just go off on it because he's going to have a whole bunch of real estate down there on the power play.
It's funny. I said before the year that Jake DeBrusk would lead the Bruins in goals. Maybe it was Nick Ritchie all along. Maybe I should have just went for it. I mean, like Nick Ritchie. But it's funny. The Nick Ritchie stuff is interesting because obviously fans going into this season were very against him. We in the media were not particularly pro Nick Ritchie. I would say we were pretty not anti a guy, but like we didn't really expect a lot out of him. And we look back at the trade and go, wow, you could have got more for Danton Heinen. But thus far, I mean, as I said, he's done his job. And there's another point, and I thought this was a great point. It was actually in a YouTube, in the Bruins Ringside comment section, someone made this point. And I said, damn, that's a pretty damn good point. Someone said, Krejci always does well when he has bigger bodies next to him. Richie, Lucic, Horton, Iginla, always does well with them. And it got me thinking, as much as Krejci's never had a right wing since Jerome Iginla, he's also never really had a big body next to him. DeBrusk and Kasha, or, Rick, when he was good with Rick Nash next to him for the short amount of time that was. So maybe Richie is the answer on the second line. Do you think that has a chance? And DeBrusk will go down to the third?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at the early returns, they've been promising, especially once you have Pastrnak back. I mean, I think that balances out the lines even more because, we've talked about DeBrusk a lot and how streaky he is, but he's still, you look at the tools he has, he's still the potential of, in a full season, being a 20, 25, 30-goal scorer. So you got a guy like him with his speed, his willingness to operate down low with a puck possession guy like Coyle and a guy like Smith who as we've seen, I think in the early going, have been impressed with just, he fires the puck from everywhere and he's willing to go, down to the blue paint. He gets that goal off of kind of a scramble in front on Saturday. So, I think DeBrusk fits in well there. And so far the returns have been good with Ritchie and Krejci together. And you kind of look at, as you said, Krejci's done well with a lot of big bodies down there. And I mean, we don't have to hop on how good Krejci is as a playmaker, but he's great when he's got just someone charging towards the net. I mean, he's got that saucer pass that usually leads to quality chances. That's how Stanika got his first career goal. He just went hard to the net, pass found him, and he collected. Yeah, so I think maybe it's also just reading Krejci and how he likes to set up those passes, and it's just having bodies to the net. And usually, if you've got a bigger guy or a power forward like Lucic or a Ginla or a Ritchie, usually
who would have thought would be saying Nick Ritchie with the names Milan Lucic and Jerome Ginla.
Exactly. So I mean, it's looking good right now, and hopefully they kind of keep it rolling, because you look at this team again. It's crazy how you go just a couple of games in a couple of days and the narrative's flipped, but you have Pastrnak now with the way that second line could be playing, and especially that third line is playing, and just how daunting of an assignment that would be for another team in terms of, all right, we got to put our our shutdown line on the Bergeron line, but this Coyle, Smith, DeBrusk line's killing teams too. Like we saw what it was in the run to the Cup in 2019 when that Coyle line got going. That team was tough to stop, even with some of the matchups they had. So I think you have to be encouraged with what you've seen from all the guys so far, and the fact that it's probably going to get a lot better in the next couple of days.
It's funny you mentioned the mismatches. Maybe DeBrusk is a lot better against, better matchups for him. I think he would be. And I think maybe that, gets his scoring going. And especially if you put him there permanently next to Coyle. One other note I'll make, by the way, the Bruins obviously are in a good spot. COVID, knock on wood, has not hit them yet.
Mm-hmm.
When if that happens, the lineup would obviously get shaken up a ton. So the Bruins are very, very fortunate that they are playing well right now and they do not have COVID on their list of things to worry about. Another funny thing is on the Nick Ritchie thing, I was talking with Spoke Z the other day. He was a big Nick Ritchie guy. And he was mentioning, he made a good point to me. He said, how fast do Bruins fans just turn on Nick Ritchie? Like, what is Nick Ritchie going to do? Like, everyone's high on Nick Ritchie right now. Bruins Twitter loves him. Bruins fans outside of that in the Facebook groups I see, they love Nick Ritchie. Nick Ritchie is on a 180. But when does that 180 go back? When do people start going, oh, my God, Nick Ritchie? No. It's got to be like a dumb penalty.
It's going to be a penalty.
Trip.
It's got
to be some stupid penalty. It's got to be a penalty.
Yeah, which it's funny how the progression has went from, he scores pretty early on in the season, but even then when he wasn't, he just looked a lot more engaged. But if you tweeted, during that Jersey series, Nick Ritchie's probably their best forward right now, you would get either people being like, fuck you, or or it would be like, they'd have to preface it, be like, I'm not a big Nick Ritchie guy, but I guess he has, you had to qualify it by being like, I'm not saying he's good or nothing, but he has looked good, I guess, right now. To now it's all in. It's, he's going for the Rocket Rashad now.
Oh, yeah, no, he's going to lead the Bruins. He's going to lead the whole league in points. He's going to win MVP. That's pretty much what it's become. But, yeah, it'll be a penalty, and it'll be after, a game or two of not scoring. He'll miss an open net on a power play. That's going to happen, and he's going to take a tripping penalty, or he's going to drill someone's face into the glass. He's not a particularly, big hitter. I think he just, makes good body contact along the boards. I wouldn't say he's like this Nicholas Kronwall level of hitter in the open ice. But the time will come when everyone just goes right back. But I do think for the long term, I think you have something there. I think you do. I think putting him next to Krejci on that second line, try that, again. And by the way, not for a period. Try it for 3-4 games. Give it a shot. You have the depth. You have the forward depth. Go for it. So we covered Nick Ritchie. We covered Trent Frederick, which I deem the two biggest Bruins surprises of the year. I think most people would do the same. Everything's good in Bruins land right now, which is not something we could say a week ago. But I guess that shows you how fast things can change in just a week in a year like this. Who knows what we'll be talking about in a week? I hope I didn't just jinx myself there.
Yeah.
Connor, before I let you go, is there anything you'd like to plug for Boston Sports Journal?
Yeah, we're going to have day-to-day coverage throughout this week. Obviously got a big matchup on Saturday against a former captain of the Bruins, who's now in Washington, D.C. and playing playing pretty well for the Capitals right now as well. So we'll have a breakdown on that. We're going to do a deep dive a little bit on Jacob Zaboral and his play, just because it feels like everyone's talking about how good Jake Zaboral is doing right now, but it's just like it's part of the narrative, right? Like I don't know if there's anyone who's like making note of like the plays, just like, oh, he looks good. So we're doing a little bit of a deep dive on that over at bostonsportsjournal.com. So subscribe over there. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do that at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. And for CLNS Media, I'm Evan Marinofsky. You Bruins beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.